Today, we're going to be talking about how we think about observability, traceability, and specifically our testing and version control in the context of agentic AI. Generally speaking, the more complex your use case, the more steps on a given interaction, the more decision-making power or agency your AI agent has, the more important it is to have the right tools in place. Agentic AI really only works at enterprise scale if you can see exactly what happened, define what should happen, and safely ship and test changes. So here we're taking a look at an agent for a fictional bicycle retailer, Quicksilver Bikes, which helps handle account-specific questions users have, as well as questions from general knowledge about different products or policies. And let's say we've noticed an increase in escalation for one of our key flows. In this case, it's customers inquiring about when their bike's going to be ready to pick up at a store. This is a common flow for us that our agent can handle without needing human help because it can authenticate users and pull in account-specific information when appropriate. So I can go ahead and quickly test the live experience on site with the phrase that should prompt a sign in here. I'll say something like, "Hi there, can you tell me when my bike is going to be ready for pickup?" And here we can see we're getting an answer from general knowledge and not being prompted to log in like we'd expect. Now, if I jump into Quiq and look at analytics here, I can see we've got a huge uptick in escalation for this flow. And I can click in to get more details and see the journey customers are taking and then dig into conversations at every step. So here we can see a user asking about pickup, getting that general information. And if I click through these conversations, I'm going to see that repeating. Our agent should be prompting customers to log in, checking their account, and then responding with exact details. Instead, it's answering from general knowledge and never asking for authentication, which is causing customers to escalate to our live agents. Now, with agentic AI, there are many possible causes for this. The orchestration logic we're using could have changed. The prompt that checks whether or not to log in, whether or not to prompt a customer to log in might have been modified. We might be classifying the inquiry incorrectly, or the agent could have lost access to the API needs for this scenario. Now, this level of debugging is where a lot of tools stop. I can see the wrong answers being sent, and then I've got to jump into my building tool to scramble out what changed and how I'm going to fix it. With Quiq, rather than guessing, I'm going to be able to jump into AI Studio, which I'll go ahead and do. I'll click into my AI agents, and I'll click into the agent in question here. I can already see off the bat that Mark has published a recent update with some notes around speed improvements and model updates. So I'll click into that version. And then I'm dropped into our flow panel where I can see the logic of our agent laid out here. For our purposes, what I'm going to do is open up Debug Workbench, which has a bunch of great testing and observability tools. I'll click over to my tests. I've got a range of tests set up here grouped together around authentication. When we talk about agents having access to tools, we want to make sure we can set up tests to see if they're using those tools effectively. I'll go ahead and run all these tests, and we'll see that they come back as failing all of them. So we're not correctly identifying when we should be prompting customers to sign in. So I'll click into that bike pickup one. Now, the key difference with these tests and other tools you might see is they don't just check, hey, was the answer or the response the agent sent similar or not? They also let me check anything else along the way, the orchestration decisions, whether a specific tool was invoked, the prompt completion chosen, and the expected API calls. In this case, I can see the requires API data assertion is failing, which is what I need to be true in order to prompt customers to sign in. Now, not only can I easily assert specific criteria for my test to pass, like I'm doing here, I can also easily compare how different versions of my AI agent handle the same test. So if I go ahead and click the button up in the top right here, compare revision, it'll open up this test and compare how the live version and the previous version handle that same test. So in the middle here, I can see that top level output where the previous version was correctly prompting me to sign in. And we can see the version on the right that we just experienced is just answering from general knowledge. Now, in addition, I can see on the left-hand side, all of the steps between the question being asked and the answer being sent. So in the beginning there, I can see 8 or 9 parallel prompts that were running as part of that planner step. And I can see that the actual requires API data step has actually been removed here. For every step here, I can click into it to get full details of the prompt completion. So in this case, on the left, I can see what the previous version was returning. And on the right, I can see that that was removed. And I can do this for every step in this interaction. I can see auth was removed here, and I can see what the completion looks like on the left-hand side. This level of visibility is super important for agentic experiences. You can see there's no black box, and I have full insight into every decision the agent is making within a single user turn. And you can see it's making a lot of them. So this level of visibility is super important to understand exactly why something happened in a given interaction. Now let's click out of here and step back and compare all the changes between these two versions of our AI agent. So here I'm getting a side-by-side diff checker of exactly what changed from the version Mark published and the version that was live right before that. So I can go side by side. I can also check specific sections. So if I want to see configuration, I can see he updated that default model, and I can see what changes he made to our prompts, and I can see he fully removed that require API data prompt there. Now, ideally, Mark is running through these tests ahead of publishing his changes, and I can have a conversation with him about that. But with Quiq, it's easier for me to identify exactly what changed between versions, both for individual tests and across the whole agent. So I'll jump into the previous version of the agent that was working as expected. I can go ahead and run my test just to make sure, click in to view full details, just like we were doing previously. And then once I feel confident, I can go ahead and republish this version and set those changes live with zero downtime for my customers. I can go ahead and now jump back out to site and confirm the agent's working as expected. So I'll enter that same sort of phrase I was doing previously that was just answering from general knowledge, and it should prompt me to sign in here. So I'll say, can you tell me when my bike is going to be ready for pickup? I'll get that request to sign in, so I'll go ahead and do it. And then we'll pulling in some account-specific information. Awesome. Agentic experiences are powerful because they can handle the long tail of customer requests, but that power requires more from your tools. You need fine-grained observability to see every decision and tool call in an entire interaction. You need granular tests that let you define correct behavior at any point, not just based on the final output. And you need version control to easily compare, diagnose, and roll back changes safely and effectively. If you'd like to dive deeper into how we think about building, deploying, testing agentic AI at Quiq, please feel free to reach out directly or schedule some time on our website.